Hello, it's Collette from the Sacred Rose Temple, and I really felt to come on and share some information with you with regards to, we've just walked into the spring equinox, and there's this feeling of what seeds am I going to plant now? We've had a lot of time of reflection. We've been thinking, what is it from last year that we don't want to have to go through again, or what are the things that I've learned from last year, and how do I want my life to change from last year? What things do I want to bring in? What seeds do I want to sow? And I was thinking on this with regards to my up and coming course on Monday. I'm starting a whole new womb container. I've been teaching womb work for the last 15 years, and particularly over the last 5 years, I've been doing big, long containers with women who've really wanted to work with the sexual alchemy, with the womb power, with the spiritual prowess. And the womb is the place that all is seeded. So I was thinking about the women that had come into the container already over the last few days, and what this next 13 months is actually going to do for them and bring for them. I have to admit that this is my biggest body of work. It has been a blood, sweat, and tear model, really. It's about my process through Jungian individuation mixed with alchemy and the Magnus Open and the stages of transformation in the human being marked out by mystics and philosophers and people that were into human transformation, who had an idea of how transformation is mapped out for the soul, rather than just a hodgepodge of let's land and hope this works out. So this is why I love a map of the soul. This is why I love a structure, because the structure really allows us to see real transformation. We can come into an evaluation of what's working, what needs to be, changed, whether our devotion is strong enough, whether we're giving our work enough time. So the containers really allow that. But I wanted to share a dream I had with you all last night. So I use dreams every single night to use in my dream book for all my different bodies of work. And last night I slept with the intention of the equinox and bringing in new and all that needed to be shared with women, and my role, my ancestral role with working with women and bringing the power of the womb back. And I received a very powerful dream. The dream gave me a very distinct cervical practice that spoke to me about the alchemical magnetism of the cervix. And now, if women can access the cervix, which is obviously part of our womb alchemy, and specifically with a very ancient practice that I was given last night, that there is a magnetism that women begin to feel. So I've been testing this out. I've done the practice and I'm waiting to find what will come. Something happened this morning that showed me that the magnetism was already beginning to work. The womb is very magnetic, but magnetism is only available if we go in and move out what's in the way of the magnetism of the womb. And our wombs for women hold much of our pains, much of our sorrows, much of our shadows, much of our bad relationships. And that includes lovers as well as like family and friends. It's all held within the vessel of the womb. And what most women don't realize is that the alchemical processes we've always been kind of allowed to see and shared have been a male path. It's been a masculine path. I recently shared in my Druidess course with the Shift Network that there was a woman called Maureen Murdoch who laid out the heroine's journey from a feminine perspective, not from a masculine, because the masculine perspective is very different from the feminine. And if we think of ourselves as, mind, body, and soul, the masculine path of enlightenment is through the mind, and the third eye, and that acquires a different set of mapping to be able to work through that way. But for a woman, it's a very somatic, very emotional, very womb-based process. And I have made it my lifelong journey really to show women that this is the way we go through our emotions, our feelings, our intuition, our instincts, our hearts. We let the soma, the magnetism of our bodies and souls be felt, and that takes us down and into the soul and down into enlightenment, much like Mother Earth, much like the cosmic mother. It's not an upward through the mind journey. So as we go through this womb alchemy course, this is the process that the women are going to be doing. We're going to be looking at the feminine goddesses and really working through aspects of like Persephone and Kali and Inanna. We're going to be looking at how, Venus allows us to become this kind of beauty, sensually centered woman. It's going to be vigorous. It's going to hit all the dynamics of the feminine, but we're going to follow that route of the Magnus Opus, which I believe is super powerful. And that begins with the Nigredo. So I've changed the wording of these to make them more accessible. I've called this the blackening and the descent into the darkness. And in that first part of this course, we're really going to be looking at your journey and how we kind of like destroy the ego slightly. Of course, we don't want the ego to go. The ego is vital for us on our journey through life, but we want to break its old ways. We want to begin to feel that there's this place of us that's been stripped away. And that's what we're going to do in the first 4 months. We're going to be going into the blackening, working with the goddess like Hecate and Kali, those that represent the darker aspect of the feminine. And we're going in there to see what might be in the way of our magnetism, what might be in the way of our womb, what wounds, what emotions, what feelings are still around there that are blocking us for this empowered, mystical, spiritual life that we hold as women. And it's going to be a really deep phase. It's an essential phase, and it's one that is missed out in a lot of feminine teachings. We as women really love to be propelled to like the light, the love, the bows, the frills. Of course, it's very feminine, but the blackening stage is truly essential for an ascension or the individuation of a woman, because she has to meet that part of herself. She has to meet the dark goddess. She has to meet the darker version of herself. She's got to go down and under. Persephone showed us this. Inanna showed us this. There are so many stories that show us that this darkness is a must to come up with some seeds of perspective to come into the next phase. So the second phase, which will be the second part of the journey, is the whitening, is the purification and the illumination. This is the stage that we begin to get purified. We have this beautiful whitening process, and it's cleansing and it's healing and it's transforming. It's bringing in the healing balm, the very clarity that we need, of clarity of emotions, clarity of sense of self, and a clarity of the spiritual part of us as women, but most of all, clarity within the womb. So those of us that often feel we're not very clear, or we're indecisive, or we can feel a bit lost or chaotic, this second stage will reconcile that and bring in a much more clearer view of yourself. The third stage, which is a yellowing stage, is the awakening of the soul. We'll have met much emotion in the first 2 stages. And when we meet emotion, we get very close to our soul as women, and it brings us into a deeper spiritual awareness of the self. So we'll feel a new, like a vitality, much as the yellow of the sun. It's a solar energy. It brings in this illumination, this divine potential, this golden energy that makes us realize that the authentic self, the deep-rooted, beautiful womb, is one of spiritual gold, and that the world needs this gold. This solar energy is very much needed to be felt from the feminine. She casts the light, she brings in the warmth. And so this will be a very pivotal stage of the course. And the final stage, which is the reddening, it's the union of the divine and the human being within ourselves. So that part of us that is Collette, that lives in France, with that spiritual aspect of me, that high priestess or whatever we find in there, is the reddening phase. And I always compare this to that blossoming of the womb, where the womb gets this big red rose. She becomes juicy and full and open and ready to impart wisdom to you. It makes you realize the divinity that lives within your womb, not outside of it. And we actually stop searching outside and begin to know that all the messages come from the unconscious, that come from within spaces of our body, that is connected to the divine, to our ancestors, to greater beings than ourselves. And this is the kind of way that I now receive teachings. All my teachings come through my womb space, through my unconscious spaces, all the modules, everything I need to teach, the practices. It comes through the womb because of this work that I've done with my womb. And it's been very challenging for me, having to work within very masculine structures, to be able to find that. But I've been guided into how I approach it through a feminine way. And luckily, all the work I've done in the past really led all of this to marry quite beautifully. We will feel part of us that feels very whole, and that there is something within us. Some people describe it as a grail. Some people describe it as the rose. Some people describe it as an enlightened path, a higher path. The language is different for everybody, but the language comes out that you recognize within yourself there is a different way of being. There is the mundane, the doing the dishes and the everyday chores that we do, but there's also a very spiritual, sacred way to live as a woman, and we can fuse the two. And I'm living testimony to that. My life is mundane and also very sacred and very spiritual. And I want to really support women, because I know that these women go on to support other women in knowing the framework and the map and the blooming of the womb in the feminine enlightenment, in the feminine individuation, in the feminine way that we meet the divine self. So this was my message last night, to just be more visible, to share, process what it's going to involve, and how that actually really ties up so well with coming into a new era, an astrological new year. What does that mean for you? What work are you going to do on yourself? You can't expect great transformations in your life without devoting to something that is calling in transformation, that is working on transformation. I know I spent a lot of my life just kind of hoping that this happened. It doesn't work like that. The seeker has to seek to be sought. We have to step into some body of work. We have to devote. And the feminine is devotional. She's highly devotional. She's highly committed. And that involves waking up, doing a practice. It involves being with other women, sharing. It involves standing up and stepping up to a class. That is the devotional feminine, much like we know of the priestesses and the empresses that lived in the temples and the tabernacles and the churches. They set themselves to that sacred space to devote themselves to practice, teachings, and embodiment. It's essential. Without it, you will be stuck continually in repetitive cycles. So I'm really giving you a big heartfelt nudge and a wink to come and join me. I've kept the early bird price to make it more accessible. The forum is open. There are women waiting in there for you to join them. They're a beautiful set of women so far, really, really anxious and keen to make some deep transformation in their own life. They're mothers and new mothers. We've got women who are older. There is no set prescription for this. In fact, being a mother, a maiden, or coming in as a crone, it doesn't matter. You have a pivotal place in society, and whatever you seek and do in this container will aid you and the women around you. So I really invite you to step in, be part of this. Know that when you commit to something, especially one that's about servicing for yourself and for humanity, that you're always met, that time, finances, whatever it is that might be your excuse for not stepping in when you want to, will be met. That has never, ever not been the case for me or any of the women that I work with. If they trust and they sign up, or they trust and they devote, it works out for them. So I'm really looking forward to any inquiries that you might have. Please feel free to reach out to me if you feel that you need to just like speak a little on it, or if you're just going to be gutsy and follow that feminine intuition. I mean, if your intuition is saying, yes, I want this, please just join, because that deeper calling needs to be heard. And if not now, when will you answer? Looking forward to meeting you all and speak to you all soon. Bye for now.